What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast. And this country is serving, or not serving, but honoring Veterans Day today. We wanted to bring someone on that is special to us. We actually go to church with Mr. Joe and the Deck Talk Podcast. This country is serving. I can't, or not serving, but honoring Veterans Day today. We wanted to bring someone on.
Major malfunction.
Yeah, I don't know if that's me or church with Mr. Joe and Deck Talk Podcast. This country is serving. I can't, or not serving, but honoring. I don't know.
Major malfunction.
Yeah. I don't know if that's me or Mr. Joe. Do y'all, hey, Pappy, do you happen to have it on?
I don't.
I don't know. Let's see.
Major malfunction.
Yeah. I don't know if that's me or Mr. Joe. Do y'all, hey, Pappy, do you happen to have it on? I'm going to cancel this whole thing.
There we go.
All right. I have no clue what I just canceled out, but let's start it all over again. I'm sorry, guys, but welcome back to Deck Talk Podcast. And just like what we had said last week, we are going to be honoring on Veterans Day a guy that is very special to us. We go to church with Mr. Joe, and Mr. Joe had got to do something that is very special. Not too many people has been able to do it. I know, I don't know quite the number, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's around 730, 740 people that have gotten the honor to be the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Am I correct?
That's about how many, what they call the Tomb Guard ID badge, which is a badge you get for marching at the tomb. There's about 700, and the last I heard was about 760, 770 that have received it.
So he's got to do something that is very special in this country, and we're going to have a nice little conversation with him about it, guys. And so just like how every podcast is, it is an interactive podcast, guys. So make sure if you have any questions, just leave it in the comments, and we will try to get to them. But with this being said, I'm Colin Burnett.
And I'm Pappy J. Hey, we're going to do something a little different as well on honoring our soldiers and veterans. Hey, we're just going to give a shout out to all the veterans out there that has paved the pathway for us all. We can't thank everybody enough, men and women that has served and sacrificed their life for what we can do today. So for all the veterans that are still with us and the ones that has moved on, we thank each and every one of you. And without y'all, we can't do this without y'all. So thank y'all.
So thank you again, and Pappy, I really appreciate every week that you do that, and we honor a soldier. Today we just could not point out one of them, but so guys, this is Mr. Joe that is with us, and so Mr. Joe, how are you been doing, brother?
Doing great.
And
living life.
I hear you. So I wanted to talk to you about your time in service, because you actually got to do quite a bit of stuff that is very interesting. And main thing we wanted to really kind of hit on is you doing the garden of the unknown soldier, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So with that, how how was it that how did you first learn about the opportunity to serve as the tomb guard with the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, and what drew you to apply for such prestige and demanding role?
Well, my father was in the Flying Tigers, and we went to a Flying Tiger convention in D.C. in 1971, the year I graduated from high school, and we got a chance to see the changing of the guard at Arlington Cemetery. And I can remember standing next to him, and I told him, I said, if I ever get a chance to do this, I'll drop everything and do it. Little did I know that 3 years later I would be doing that, because in 1973 was the last year of the draft. My number was 32, and they were up to 30. So I figured discretion was a better part of valor, so I enlisted with a guaranteed enlistment to the old guard.
Right, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, is that is it now like a process for that to become part of the old guard, or like do you have to be recommended to serve as that, or can you just apply?
The last I heard, they're always looking for folks. Um, it's gotten to the point where a lot of the younger folk don't want to put in the effort that's necessary to really do the stuff that you do in the old guard, and so they've had a
Right.
hard time getting folks to really stick with it. I know when I was there and when I had the chance to go to the tomb, it was, come hell or high water, you were going to do it. You were
Right.
going to kill yourself doing it, if nothing else. Last time I talked with a sergeant of the guard at the tomb several years back, probably 4 or 5 years back, he said that they invite several people down to try out. And he said within the first 2 or 3 days, a good percentage of them had already quit. And he said
Really?
it's lucky if they can get a couple of them to stick long enough to even get to the final area, because it takes about 2 weeks. They give you 2 weeks TDY, or temporary duty, to go from where you are to being a tomb guard.
So
So
how long once you make it through the process and uh all that you have to do to qualify to be a guard, how long do you serve as a guard?
As long as your body holds out.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that usually the problems you have is either with your ankles or your knees. I'm sure you have seen at least videos of the change of the guard where they click their heels.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't always hit your heels the way you're supposed to, and I've got bone chips in both of my ankles on the insides because of not hitting the way I was supposed to.
mm.
Mm.
so then this is so here's a picture of Mr. Joe actually uh, doing the ceremonial walk and stuff. That is, and to me, when you sent me that picture, I mean, I was like, golly, that is amazing. I, I mean, I really, I never did serve. My dad, my grandfather. My grandfather served in World War II. My older brother served 24 years in the Navy. So I've always grew up with the respect for people that have served, and but with the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, it's always been something that I've always wanted to go see the ceremony, changing of the guard, and then when I seen that picture, it just kind of it warmed my heart to be able to see that. Um, but with that, um, how how long does it take for you to actually learn the ceremony process? Because I mean, it's everything is pristine. It's like machine work that y'all are working together trying to get through the ceremony. Correct?
Well, there's a couple of different steps. First thing that you have to learn, or that we had to learn, and I don't think they do it quite the same now, but when you had your manual of arms, when you went from right shoulder to your left shoulder, and I'll kind of sit up a little bit, what we used to have to do is we used to have to put our elbow like this, and we'd pull like this, and the weapon, the M14 that we have, would be straight up and down. We would have to sit in the tomb guard quarters. If we were sitting, walking, doing whatever we were doing, that weapon had to be up and down, and we had to have our elbow right at our side. The only time that you didn't have to have that was when you were going to the bathroom or eating. Otherwise, that weapon better be up and down. So you got to the point where you had the muscle memory to be able to hold the weapon without any problems. And once you got that, a lot of people don't know this, but there's a catacombs underneath the amphitheater where the tomb is. And that's where the tomb guard quarters are. And back in the back part of the catacombs, they take the mat from the previous year and they put it down in the catacombs when they put the new mat up on the plaza for the guards to march on. So every year they flip it. So you've got 1 year that you have a new mat, and then it goes down to the catacombs, and then it gets thrown away, etc. And that's where you practice, is down in the catacombs, and you just go over it and over it and over it. And there's one little thing that they do. If you notice, when the guard starts marching, it looks like they're full stride right from the first stride.
Right.
And there's a term called stepping over the log. And you learn how to raise your foot up and then make that first step. And that's how you make it look like you're on full stride from your first step. And then you learn different ways to, where you flip the weapon and it, at one point when they're doing the inspection, the person that's being inspected takes the weapon and they hold it up and they flip it. And when they do, it's going this way and this way at the same time. So it's going in two different axes at the same time.
That's
And then
crazy.
you catch it and you come down to port arms.
Now,
That is
one
so
thing that I've noticed with during the march and stuff like that, like the head of the soldier or the guard it almost looks like it just kind of just stays on the same plane, and it just almost like it's just floating along.
Well, there's a little trick to that.
Intentionally?
There's a little trick to that. If you'll notice, when you see the shoes for the guards, the soles are very thick. They're probably about that thick. And the reason is that you can glide when you have a thick sole. When you have a thin sole, you cannot glide. And you actually walk on the outside. You kind of use the outside of the shoe, the sole, and you kind of roll your feet when you march. And that helps you glide.
Really? That's
So, and
interesting.
that's the trick that they use.
That is, it's very interesting to, to watch and to, kind of get like just some of the things that I've picked up just watching. There's no telling how many times that I've seen it, and I just noticed, and you never see like anything bobbled or body or anything like that. But to me, I always just seemed like the head was just kind of just floating. It stayed on one plane and just went. And so
I'll let you have a little secret. When I look at the picture that you just threw up,
mm-hmm.
I can see four things in it that I would have rather not been doing at that moment.
Right.
That to me was not the way it was supposed to be done. But everybody else looks at it and they go, "Oh, that looks like a great picture." But for me, I noticed four things in it that I could have done better.
So, to me, it's just it's amazing. So, can you walk us through like the rigorous selection and training process? What surprised you the most about preparing to be the guard of the unknown soldier?
Well, the process is that once you get the sergeant of the guard to say yes, that it's okay for you to do it, they then cut orders for you for TDY, temporary duty. and they do it for 2 weeks. And then when you go down there, of course, you meet all the guys and you find out which relief you're going to be on. There's 3 reliefs. First relief is the medium height guys. Second relief are the high guys, the taller guys. And third relief are the short guys. And a lot of people don't know that. They think everybody has to be the same height, but actually it's we've got the short, medium, and then the high guys. And you get put into one relief or the other. And then once you're in that relief, the relief commander takes you and starts doing all the training. And they do it with other guards that are there, and they work with you, and they keep working with you until you get to the point you can do it the way they do it. Or if you can't do it, then you don't end up becoming a guard. Or if you drop out before you get to the end, that's the second way and that's nowadays that's mostly what happens.
And would you have to go through like uniform inspections, like each time that you were on duty for that?
Now, interestingly enough, I've watched a lot of videos that's on YouTube now where they use calipers and they measure it. We never did any of that. The fact is that once you put those medals and different items on your uniform, once you've done it 3 or 4 times, you can almost throw them at the uniform and they'll go in the right holes.
Right.
I mean, yeah, we wanted it to look as nice as we could, but nobody ever really checked this and took calipers or anything like that to do it. But you did the best you could. And I might add that when I got there, they just started handing out double knit suit, dress blues. Remember double knit suits and that back in the 70s? Well, that's what they did. And it actually worked out really well because they were much thicker and they held the creases much better. And they also would much easier to put the medals on because the holes would stay there much more, permanently.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what was the most inclement weather that you had to guard in?
Well, it was snowing. I mean, snow, rain didn't make any difference. I have a picture somewhere that someone took of me with snow on my epaulets and up on the top of my hat as I'm going back and forth across the mat.
That's cool.
And how long, like in inclement weather like that, how long are you out on the ceremony? Because I know like in the heat of the summer and stuff, they drop it down to like 30 minutes. So will they do that?
It's 30 minutes no matter what. What you do is you go in rotation. Depending on how many people you have in a relief, you're allowed to have 6 sentinels per relief, and then a relief commander. The relief commander does not walk on the mat usually. He's just there to relieve each time that you have a guard change.
Right.
But the most I ever had was 4 sentinels. So we were on a half hour, off an hour and a half, on a half hour. And then you have night hours, which in the wintertime, the night hours are from 5 at night until 7 in the morning. In summertime, it's 7 at night until 7 in the morning. And those are 2 hours at a time. And then you do rotation the same way. You're on for 2 hours and then off for however many sentinels you have on the relief. And then from 7 to 8 was the time that they allow all the new guys to practice because the cemetery doesn't open up until 8 o'clock in the morning. Right. But they'll get all the new guys. And we used to have a name for that, but I can't say it now. But we used to have a name for them, and they would be the ones that march from 7 to 8. And that's when you'd get out there on your dress blues because at night, you just wore your Class A's, the old greens, as we used to call them. That's right. What you did your night hours. And your night hours, the only 2 rules you had was to not put the butt of the weapon on the plaza and not fall asleep. And unfortunately, I did both. And I think every sentinel that's ever been there has done both.
You're right.
it's just one of those things when, from 3 to 5 in the morning, when nobody's around and nothing happens,
Right.
you're going to close your eyes a little bit if you get sleepy, or you're going to put the butt of the weapon on the plaza, even for just a short period of time.
Now, are y'all still marching at that time?
Nope, you do
No?
not. You can walk around. In fact, I used to walk around and put my weapon on my shoulders and then just put my hands over my weapon, just sort of walk around like that, kind of rest my hands on my weapon. You did whatever.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
There's nobody there to really see you.
Right.
Right.
Well, I didn't know if you still had, if you still had to march, even though with no one there or not,
Nope, not during night hours.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's
That
interesting.
is interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Now, how long did you guard for?
The better part of a year.
Now, what does a typical day look like for a tomb guard, from early morning preparation to the changing of the guard ceremony?
What you're on one day and you're off 2 days. So you're on for 24 hours and then you're off for 48. During that 48 hours, especially on the second day, the old guard, leastways when I was there, downstairs in one of the barracks, they had a number of steam machines, steam presses.
Right.
So you would take your dress blues down, and usually we had a couple of pair, and we take them down and you press them, you get them all ready, and then you have them ready for when you get picked up on the morning. You get picked up around 7:30 in the morning, 7:30, 7:45, and a bus comes, picks you up, and it takes you down to the tomb guard quarters, and then change over around 8 o'clock in the morning to the new relief, and that's when all the old people, you know, pack up their stuff and they get on the bus and they go back up to the barracks, and then you get off and you bring all your stuff into the or take all your stuff into the tomb guard quarters, and you start your 24 hours.
That's interesting. John Bates says, what is the most interesting moment that has happened to you while on duty?
Well, I would say for me, right now, if you go to the tomb, you'll see that there's a bunch of, I guess they have it's like brass bars that make a fence that goes around where the tomb is to keep the public away. Well, when I was there, all they had were stanchions, just poles with chains that would, loop from one to the other.
Right.
And it was much closer to the mat than what they are now. Much, much closer. And on the north end is where they had the guard shack, that if something happened, you could go in, like if your shoelaces come untied or something like that. I actually had two things happen to me that were quite interesting. One was, and once you start marching on the mat, you know how to take the steps, the 21 steps, to either come right at the edge of the mat or to back off a little bit. I mean, if there was a really good looking woman at the end of the mat, you might want to march a little bit closer to the edge, and if not, you might back off a little bit. Well, I was marching and there was a gentleman that was standing there and he had a Doberman. And as I walked up, I came up, I stopped, and I clicked my heels, and the Doberman lunged at me. And he caught it. He had a leash on it. He caught it in time, and it probably got within about 6 inches of biting me.
Whew.
But I had to just stand there, and I kind of leaned back on my heels, and I was like, oh my goodness gracious. It didn't get me. But that was one time. And then the second time, we were the first enlisted to get contacts. And so I got contacts, and they were the hard contacts back then. And I was wearing my contacts, and my left eye formed a blood blister. And it broke, and I started tearing tears, and they had blood in it, and it started going down my cheek. And everybody was pointing, going, oh, he's crying tears. He's crying tears. And they were taking pictures, and I must have been in 1,000 Japanese homes, because there were so many Japanese coming that summer. I guess the exchange rate was great, and it was like click, 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 when I was doing it. And that's one time when I went into the shack at the north end, and they have a field phone. You just grab it and you squeeze it, and it lets them know down in the tomb guard quarters, and they come up immediately. And he saw what was happening, and the relief commander relieved me right there. And we did a very abbreviated. There's a way you do it, a very abbreviated change. And the other
Right.
guard took over, and then I just marched on off, got it taken care of. But those were the two times.
That's
So,
interesting.
so can you tell us what the 21 step and the 21 pause represents?
That came from maritime when they used to do the 21 gun salutes for someone, and that had always been the standard that if you want to give a true military salute, it's 21. I don't know what the 21 represented. I just know that it started in the maritime.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Now, how for people that may not know what the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is, can you explain like what it represents? Because we were talking, Patrick and I were talking in the truck here past couple weeks about this episode, and was talking about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and it actually has. You would think with just the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier that it may be just one single, but there's actually three. Am I correct?
There is three. There actually were four at one time.
I
You've
didn't
got
know that.
it's in the crypt, which when you showed the picture of me, you saw that there was the tomb right behind me, the one that says, here rest, that's the picture to grow on his gravesite. But there's the unknown from World War One, World War Two, and the Korean conflict. There was also one from Vietnam, but there was an article that was written either a paper or a magazine or something about they thought that the unknown for Vietnam was one of three different people, and they mentioned that one of the people that they were talking about also came with a raft and a parachute when they found him. Well, it turns out that only one of the people that they mentioned could have had that, and his name was Lieutenant Blessy. And they exhumed the body, and they did a DNA test and found out that that's who he was, and he's now being reinterred at a different military cemetery. So there's no Vietnam
So,
So why can they not do a DNA test on the unknown?
because nobody had DNA tests back then.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought, but
Yeah, the previous three they didn't have DNA tests, and in order to try to find that many people from that era would be almost impossible.
yeah.
right. So, now is like the height? You was talking about the height earlier, and it looks like you could see on the platform like when like each step and stuff. So how do they for like let's say for the shorter people they're going to have a smaller gate than what the taller people are. So how do they? And it looks like they all kind of hit right in those steps. How do they manage to do that?
Practice, 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 practice.
Yeah.
I mean, you even when you're there and you've been accepted, you're always practicing, down in the catacombs. You're
Right.
going with because you usually your rotation, you're with the same people every time,
Oh, okay.
and so you always work with your buddies, and whoever relieves you, you practice with them, and whoever you relieve, you practice with them because you've got going on and off.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, let's see.
But that it's just practice, where you get to the point where, um, like I said earlier, you get to where how big of a step you need to take to get to the end of the mat or to come back a little bit. And you can do the same for once you learn that, you can pretty much match your steps with anybody.
Yeah, that would kind of go like coincide. I mean, we did a lot of drill and ceremony, and it amazed me how you can take someone that is shorter than or a short guy or soldier to a tall soldier, but everybody's still in sync. That's one of the things that I was always amazed by, like drill and ceremony, and I guess that would kind of be not necessarily drill and ceremony, but the same concept in a way. Just
It is.
everybody
It's the
staying
same
in
thing.
step.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and it's been, what was it? It's been over 80 years. Am I correct that uh, the tombs guards have stood guard of the unknown soldiers?
If I'm not
Um,
mistaken, I think it was 1936, 33. Well, it was in the 30s that it started.
okay. I was thinking that it was early 40s. Uh,
well,
so that's
I believe Joe's right. I think it's like 36 or 37, if I'm
yeah.
not mistaken.
I think that's when the first Tomb Guard ID badge was presented, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I think that's when it
1937.
started.
Yeah,
Um,
it's 1937.
because I know that the actual first badge that was ever given is down at the Tomb Guard quarters on display.
So there's the big visitors from all around the world to witness the ceremony. What interaction with the public stood out to you, and how did it impact your sense of purpose?
Well, the probably the thing that I liked the most was whenever school kids would come, and there's a couple of things that kind of hit me. Was one, I loved it when school kids would come and they would be there, and they would sometimes they'd be kind of rowdy, and we'd have to. There's a spiel that we have to get people to be quiet, and we'd have to get them to be quiet, and stuff. But then they would be quiet, and they would see the rest of the ceremony and such. And then afterwards, they would come up and talk to you, and want to know because when you get finished, you might come out and you'd have your jacket on that said that you were with the old guard or something, and they say, "Oh, did you march?" And yes, and they would ask you questions and such. And the other time was when many times I used to see whether it was a mother and father, an aunt and uncle, brother, sister, whoever, that would just be standing there watching us. And you could see that the female was crying, and sometimes even the male. And we represented either a son or a daughter or a
Right.
brother or sister or nephew or whatever. And we represented that to them, and you really felt it when you saw that, and you just you really appreciated what you were doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can imagine that there's quite a few tears and stuff. It's a very emotional ceremony. So, um,
yeah. That's a huge honor, man, to say the least.
I might also add that there's a little tradition that when you do your last walk, uh, we wear white gloves, and we always spray water on them, and that helps grasp a little bit better because otherwise they're cotton, and on our weapons they would slip. But usually, what we would do is once you do your last march and you get finished and you come off the mat, there's somebody standing there and they take your weapon and take it downstairs, and then you take your gloves off and you walk up and you find a female in the crowd, and you present your gloves to them and tell them that this is your last march, and that that it's a tradition that we give our gloves to somebody that's in the audience, and would they be willing to accept them on our behalf. And it's always a very touching time for the person to receive it, and it's always touching for us. And then that evening, a lot of folks they have this little piece of metal that they put out, and you can put your shoes on it, and they spray lighter fluid on it, and then light them and burn up your shoes. I didn't do that. I still have the shoes that I marched at the tomb with.
So how was your last? Well, I was trying to wait, but how was your last walk?
Gee, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't remember it all that much because it was like it went by so fast.
Mm-hmm.
All the other ones, it seemed like it took forever for them to go through. Like you're out there and you're just marching and you're doing what you're doing. I might also add that I was on the first guard change at one point when they were doing work for the plaza for 1976. They moved the guards from where we are up by the tomb down one level on the stairs that's in front of the tomb, and we had to walk all the way around in order to get there. And I was on the some of the changes that were there, and that was an hour at a time. And that's why, when you ask what was your last walk like, it was not any different than any other walk, other than at the end you just handed your gloves away and you realized that was it, and you were going back up to the company to do whatever it was. I ended up becoming a casket bearer in second platoon of honor guard company.
Now, because I can imagine after doing it for a year, and it's all just kind of repetition of doing things, that I could see to where that it was no different. But while you're doing that, did the public or the just regular civilians and stuff, did they pretty much all the time kind of respected what y'all
yeah.
were?
Oh yeah. The only time that they didn't was when you have young school kids, grade school kids that kind of cut up, or sometimes high school kids. But then, you usually got them in line if it got too bad, and teachers always loved when you did it because that kind of shut them up for a little while, But
Yeah. So, how many presidents were you able to meet during your time on duty?
Well, Nixon and Ford was the two presidents that I had interaction with.
And we actually you sent me another picture. I'm going to put it up real quick. And can you talk about this picture, Joe?
Nixon's departure. Basically, what that is it was back then. They had a red carpet that they would roll out in a couple of different pieces, and that's what the president would walk on going out to HMX-1, which is the Marine Corps helicopter, the Sikorsky helicopter. And we actually had rolled up one roll of carpet, put it on top of the second one to roll up with it, but it kind of got away from us and it rolled a little bit. So when we got to the point where we caught it, I had one hand on the carpet and one hand on my hat. And basically, when the helicopter took off, the prop wash knocked a portion of that carpet on our back, and we're just standing there waiting for the helicopter to take off. The person who took that picture, her name is Annie Leibovitz, very famous female photographer. They call her the female Ansel Adams. And that picture made the Center of Life magazine the issue that Nixon resigned. And it's
Oh,
become a
wow.
very famous picture. And if you noticed when you showed it down at the bottom, it said Washington, D.C., 1974, AP 14, for Joe Lessen, and then Annie Leibovitz.
Yeah.
And that's what the remarks are down at the bottom. And that picture hangs in my house now. But she credits that picture with launching her solo career.
Did you say thank you? You're welcome.
Well, the funny thing is that we used to get a lot of pictures from a lot of different ceremonies, and that photographic paper that they did pictures on made wonderful dustpans. So most of the pictures we got, I remember seeing that picture when right after it happened, and we had a couple of copies floating around, and basically we just used them for dustpans. But it was my wife through her contacts when she worked on the Hill. I should probably tell you, my wife worked for 35 years in the Senate and worked for 3 different senators. And when she was working for Senator Frist, when he was the Senate Majority Leader, she was his scheduler, and she got to know the agent for Annie and made a comment to him about me being in that picture and everything. And the agent made a comment to Annie, and she sent a copy of it to us just before Christmas one year. So my wife was able to give it to me for a Christmas present one year.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, how has been part of the old guard? How has that kind of structured your life? Did it change your life any with having to with the process of doing things? Did it?
I'm actually glad you asked that question, because yes, I've done several different things in my life and have been very successful in my life, and I really attribute that success to the fact that knowing that I made it at the tomb and that I accomplished that on my own, that I knew that whatever I set my mind to, I could do.
Right.
And I did. And it really set the stage for me for the rest of my life, and being confident enough to be able to do whatever it was I really wanted to do.
Right. Now, if there's somebody that's watching this now that is contemplating on maybe wanting to be an old guard or a sentinel and stuff, what would be your advice to them?
Well, first of all, you've got to get to the old guard, and I think I'm not sure, but I would imagine there's probably still a guaranteed enlistment for it, and you have to go through a certain process to be able to make sure you don't have certain tattoos visible and such. And then once you go through that, you get to the old guard. But you don't actually get a guaranteed enlistment to march at the tomb. Once you get to the old guard, that's when you work on being the best you can be. And once you're recognized, then you can try out for the tomb. I was very fortunate in that they needed people at the time that I went down. And I actually started marching at the tomb as an E2, which is fairly rare, but I was an E2 when I went down. I'd only been in the service a little over 6 months when I started marching at the tomb.
Really? So, and that's, I mean, again, this is all, I'm trying to think of questions that Pappy and I were talking to Pappy. I mean, you can go on, and if you have any questions that, when we're just sitting in the truck and just chit chat about the people who we have coming on, we have 100 million questions that we want to ask, and then when it comes, it kind of once the light comes on, it's like brain fog. So,
Yeah.
but
Say again.
Do you have anything, brother?
Well, I mean, he pretty much has answered everything that I had was going to ask without even asking. So after I do got a question. So after your guard, you said you went to be you carried caskets. Is that right?
Correct.
So
Second platoon of Honor Guard Company. The when I was there, the Company E or Honor Guard Company was a company that had all the White House clearances.
mm-hmm,
So you had your first platoon was what they called the marching platoon, and whenever you see the whole unit that's at the White House where they do a review of the
mm-hmm,
troops, that's first platoon. They're the marching platoon. Second platoon is the casket bearers. In fact, the gentleman that taught me how to carry caskets was the head honcho for Kennedy's funeral. And then third platoon is the firing party. That's the one that does the 21 gun salute.
mm-hmm,
And then you also had the Army drill team that was part of Honor Guard Company, and you also have the Army color team, which is part of Honor Guard Company. And I did do White House jobs as well. I did several White House jobs where when the president would come down the staircase for a state dinner, he would always come down with the flag, and there would always be two weapons on either side of the flag. Well, I carried one of the weapons and would open doors beforehand, and then when it came time, we'd go upstairs, and that's actually how I got to meet President Nixon and got to know him on somewhat of a personal basis. And he was actually very funny and very personable when you got to know him because we would have to be up in the living quarters waiting for his wife to get ready. And, I probably shouldn't say this, but, like most women, they like to take a little bit longer to get ready. And she did. And so we always had a little bit of time. We got to talk, and he used to tell us jokes and ask us, about where we were from and what we were doing and, all kinds of stuff. And then we would, get ready to walk down, and he and his wife would walk down. We'd walk down right behind him and then stand behind him during the receiving line.
that's cool. I mean, ain't a whole lot of people can say that they've done stuff like that. Now, on a personal level, carrying the casket, how did it affect you?
Well, the ones that always bothered me the most was when it was a younger uh, dependent, like a child.
Mm-hmm.
And we did do some infants. Um, But when you're out there doing that, you're wanting to be the best that you can be because you're representing something to everybody that all the family and such.
Right.
And so each time that you go out and you do it, you want to try to be the absolute best you can. I was what they called the solo in an 8-man team. Whenever the hearse would pull up, there would be the person all the way on the right hand side in the back. They would step forward and then step in and pull the casket out. That's what they called the solo person. That's what I was. I either did that or present, which was on the opposite side of the solo, is that whenever the flag would be folded, it would come back and they would grab it, hold it, and then take it, present it to the OIC, the officer in command, and then salute it, and then so I either did one of those two at the end.
I had a staff sergeant that he was part of the guys that would go to the homes. I can't remember. Anyways, he would tell us stories that that it was an I know it's going to sound bad, but that it was an honor to do that, but in that it did affect him in a lot of ways because of how he would have to go tell the families of the fallen soldier. It was very gratifying. I mean, when he would tell us stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
it just makes sense that when you do something like that, you're wanting to be, you're not just you're representing,
right.
something to someone,
Yeah.
and you want to make that representation the best that you can.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because he said the exact same thing. The exact same thing. He said we always wanted to be our best. So they got our best. Whether it was just walking up to the front door and knocking on it, they always got our best because, that it's a representation. So yeah, you're exactly right on that. But
So, well, we have almost hit an hour mark, and I don't want to hold you too much longer, Brother Joe. But usually we have a question, and this is a fishing outdoor podcast, but with you on it, we have a question that we ask everybody, um, and uh, and Pappy, you want to ask the question? I think we're going to change it up just a little bit, though.
go ahead. I'm
Okay. All right.
yeah.
So usually we say, Joe, if you could have one person on the boat fishing with you for a day, who would it be and why would you want them on the boat? We're going to change it up. If you could have one person to go to dinner with, who would it be and why would you want to go to dinner with them?
Franklin Graham.
Franklin Graham.
Oh wow.
And the reason is I've always appreciated what he did with Samaritan's Purse and their
Right.
outreach and everything. And I just think that he's a upstanding Christian man, and I think I could learn from him. And I would love to have a chance to be able to talk with him.
Yeah. So I do have a question. Before we go, um, has being the old guard has has that helped, like with your walk and faith, the kind of to
Well,
walk it things out?
interestingly enough, I met the Lord when I was in the service, but it was shortly after I left the tomb.
Right.
Then I went back up to the honor guard company. The platoon I was in actually had three gentlemen that were born again, spirit filled Christians. And I noticed that there was something different about them because they just didn't seem to get hassled about anything. And I was invited to a pot faith dinner. Now, remember, Christians don't have luck, so we have faith. So it was a pot faith dinner at Arlington Assembly of God in Arlington, Virginia. And that's where I met a guy by the name of Dan Rystad, who was a Lieutenant JG in the Navy and was in the Pentagon. And he was there and he introduced me to the Lord, and the rest is history. And that happened in 1974.
Wow.
Oh wow.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was wanting to ask that earlier, and then I kind of got sidetracked. And
So you could
because I
say that
know,
the military, in a way, saved my life.
yeah,
Yeah.
and especially that eternal life. So I mean, but I I want to tell you thank you so much, Joe, for coming on, and you
My
didn't
pleasure.
hesitate when I asked you months ago about coming on, and so I want to say thank you and thank you for your time and service. Um, I know you probably heard a lot and stuff about it, but we really mean it, and we know that we couldn't do this podcast and do what we really enjoy with going hunting and fishing and stuff like that if it wasn't for guys like you and Pappy to go out and serve this country and do what y'all had to do. Um, And on Veterans Day, it is an honor to be able to have you come on, and thank you so much.
It's my
Yeah,
pleasure.
absolutely. Thank you. I got one more thing I need to do, and if my little granddaughters, if they're watching, hello, girls, Blakely and Kyle, we love you, and hope to see you soon.
Well, one of them's fixing to have a birthday too.
Yes,
So.
sir. Yeah.
So,
How old are they?
I got my oldest one, Blakely. She is 1, and then Kai, she is 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 6
Wow.
months.
Well, I have
And
one grandchild.
and we got another one coming.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, so we're definitely blessed.
I have one grandchild. He's 12 going on 40.
so,
That sounds about right.
but yeah, so
No, he's actually a very good kid. Very good. Very mannered.
That's good. Maybe he'll follow in Grandpa's footsteps.
So I hope he does better than I do.